Great to have you all join us with this session. A quick intro to myself. I'm a VP at Ipsos Innovation. I lead the large-scale UX explorations, which usually entails projects related to observing people engage with digital products, designing new synthetic experiences, or observing user behavior in everyday contexts. I'm really excited to have you here to explore a very important and complex topic, somewhat contentious topic, I will say, namely digital wellness. My goal for this session will be to share what we at Ipsos have learned about the topic and to provide some guidelines for a tactical approach to achieving business goals while protecting and improving the well-being of users. I'll do questions at the end, so feel free to drop them in the chat and we can kind of review them towards the end, if that's all right. Right. To start, I'd like us to reflect on the definition of what digital wellness is all about. It can be defined as the optimum state of health, personal fulfillment, and social satisfaction that a user of digital technology can achieve. To fully understand a topic, I often like to think about it. What is the opposite definition of what I'm exploring? The opposite of digital wellness can be described as a traditional wellness, which really emphasizes physical activities, in-person interaction, and this includes practices to promote health through natural means such as outdoor activities, manual labor, face-to-face communication, etc. And furthermore, the opposite of wellness is characterized by things such as dependence, isolation, compulsion, and other things like that. With this in mind, we conducted R&D to gain an in-depth understanding of how mobile apps impact users' well-being and to provide a framework by which apps can find a path to improvement. To do so, a large-scale study was conducted amongst a representative group of roughly 2,000 Americans who used mobile apps, in which we explored a total of 51 prominent apps stretching across 10 app categories, such as social media, video streaming, messaging, short-form video, online shopping, and so forth. The study found that 95% of users prioritize managing healthy usage habits. And since it is important to almost all users, then prioritizing user well-being likely represents a unique opportunity to build trust and differentiation, and as we know, in a very crowded marketplace. Even though most consider digital wellness to be important, in principle, not everybody maintains it. I would be guilty of one of those individuals. As many Americans feel lost without their phones, some studies have suggested that people look at their phones more than 200 times a day or every 5 minutes, and that the average American will likely spend close to 17% of their entire lifespan looking at a mobile screen. I think it's fair to say that dependency on mobile phones in American society has reached an all-time high and is making it hard for many people to imagine life without them. Opinions of what constitutes acceptable screen time are varied, though there seems to be some consensus that 2 hours per day provides a healthy balance. Interestingly, our research shows that although most people average more than twice this healthy, so-called healthy number, about 51% of people describe their ability to maintain healthy balance as being good or excellent, 44% as being fair to average, and while only 3% of people classify their ability to maintain healthy usage habits, describe their ability as poor. This may be due to various reasons. People may be reluctant to openly acknowledge their overuse due to social stigma, such as like, I don't have a problem, right? Or perhaps it's a lack of awareness of their usage habits or a lack of understanding of what a healthy usage pattern or behavior might look like. Or maybe they feel good about the current usage and they don't want to change it. Regardless, 87% of users express an interest to maintaining healthier usage habits and expect app creators to do their part to make this possible for them. As you can see, 63% of the ownership of responsibility users place on themselves, but there's a fairly large proportion, close to 40%, of that responsibility that is placed on the creators of apps. So, this kind of takes us to the next topic, which is that the general increase in consumer awareness and demand for ethical practices has led to the growing importance for companies to be responsible social citizens. Businesses are increasingly expected to contribute positively to society by engaging in sustainable practices, supporting community development and the well-being of their customers. And additionally, customers are seeking out products that minimize environmental impact, promote resource conservation, and ensure ethical practices. And similarly, we've seen recently in the last couple of years, users and regulators of mobile apps are pressuring app developers to prioritize user safety and well-being by implementing robust privacy protections, reducing addictive elements, and being transparent about data usage. And from our research, it is clear that users want to be aware of the potential risks an app might pose to their personal well-being, with 93% of people agreeing they want to know. Much of the addictiveness of apps is a function of intense competitive pressure, since feature parity complicates differentiation for the most part. Many apps provide the same core features, making it hard to stand out and meet users' high expectations. And a future state where users have visibility of the potential impact an app might have on them, we can see that it's likely to have a significant impact on their willingness to download an app, the way they use an app, or their willingness to recommend an app to somebody they know. As we can see here, prioritizing user well-being represents a unique opportunity to build trust and differentiation in a crowded marketplace. As you can see, 88, 86, 83% of people say that this is going to have an impact on them one way or another. I love the quote by Margaret J. Wheatley. She says that without reflection, we go blindly on our way, creating more unintended consequences and failing to achieve anything useful. So to reach new heights of digital sustainability, we first need to do thorough reflection and build an understanding of the factors that impact the user's digital well-being. Starting with the foundational research piece that Ipsos did, we identified 30 factors of potential influence, which after a structure equation model was used to leverage to determine essentially what are the core factors amongst all the 30 that are the broad categories of influence. We identified these to be usage. So the way people use an app is number one. I think that one is pretty obvious. The type of content that they engage on an app is important. The level of control the user has to restrict certain things that they see or to have control of their own journey is super important. The comfort that they have in reacting or engaging with the content or with others on the app plays a big role. And then lastly, the features that an app offers its users to control and to limit certain things is very important. Just a heads up that I'll be covering each of these factors next, but I won't be covering the features because the features is very much built into a means in addressing each of the 4 factors that we have here, from usage, control, content, and comfort. So let's jump into the first one here, usage habits. The factors that are most influential on usage are the total time spent per day, the time of the day they use an app, the number of times per day they use it, and the time per session. I think most of those are fairly obvious to us. Some of the suggestive actions that an app developer might take would be to implement screen time monitoring, usage reminders, and focus modes to limit distractions. Secondly, like offering customizable alerts to notify users when they reach their usage limits and providing educational content on the benefits of managing screen time. That's another alternative here. And then lastly, using positive reinforcement through gamification can encourage users to maintain healthy usage habits. Content is the next one, and the factors that are most influential on content as a driver are emotional manipulation, the prominence of feeling of discouragement, conflict, racist or prejudice or sexually suggestive content. Those are very much influential on the impact that an app has on the well-being of its users. So some of the actions we could take to limit some of these negative influences could be to use advanced algorithms and artificial intelligence to analyze large language models and patterns to detect and limit harmful content or harmful intent specifically. We can implement machine learning models trained to identify emotionally manipulative language and content designed to incite conflict or prejudice. And then lastly, providing user reporting mechanisms to flag such content to review and to apply strict moderation guidelines to ensure a safe and respectful environment. The third factor is control. The ability to limit adverse and amplify desirable content according to personal preferences is extremely important. Some of these actions that app developers might take would be to offer customizable content filters, allowing users to block or mute specific keywords or topics or accounts. Secondly, to offer personalized content recommendations based on user preferences or past behavior. And then lastly, apps can also provide settings to adjust privacy levels and content visibility, enable users to tailor their experience according to their own comfort and interest levels. And the last factor we're going to be exploring here is comfort, the extent to which the user feels comfortable commenting, reacting, expressing themselves versus being more of like a passive user and not engaging. So some of the actions we could take here, and many apps already have elements of this, but this is, I think, very useful for determining where do we double click, where do we add additional features that tap into each of these core drivers. So some of these actions could be to be providing intuitive interaction features such as easy to use, like or comment buttons, encouraging people to engage with the content or with others, and ensuring a positive and supportive community environment. Secondly, offering customization options for notification settings, allowing users to manage how and when they receive engagement prompts. And then lastly, apps can implement guidelines and moderation tools to maintain a respectful and safe space for user interactions. So those are the four factors that I wanted to just double click on a little bit here. And I will say that what we're looking at here in terms of drivers are across 51 apps that we audited. And so this differs very much by individual categories of apps. But this should give you a kind of a broad framework by which we might be able to go to specific app types and say, okay, let's do an audit, determine what's most important, and then take the next step, which really entails determining how does individual apps perform versus a category benchmark or some of the main competing apps that's in their category. So once those factors have been identified and understood, the digital wellness kind of audit can take place. And as I mentioned, this could be done at a category level or versus a key competitor. And as you can see here, the 30 factors might be audited and then identified into certain drivers of digital wellness. And that focus here is really to identify strengths, weaknesses, or opportunity for competitive edge. And if we think about that future state in which maybe in an app store, there's a digital wellness score assigned to each app, the user in fast forward 5 or 10 years might be able to see, oh, okay, this has got a high risk on impacting my digital wellness. And so, we're kind of looking into the future a little bit here to say we need to get more tactical today for that future state when there's total transparency on the potential addictive nature or digital wellness impact that an app might have. So this is really a space that I feel is really ripe for us to focus on and to start unpacking and getting ahead of our competitors. And then, this is just kind of an example of how this audit might look for one specific app. Weighing future initiatives against these drivers might provide the necessary balance for sustainable growth in a highly pressured and regulated environment. And essentially, improving an app's wellness impact might have significant benefits for user acquisition and engagement in future, while the opposite could be pretty detrimental. And then using coefficients from a structured equation model as a base, a predictive model can be developed to simulate likely impact of proposed innovation or optimization efforts, informing future development roadmaps, return on investment, and feasibility estimates. So let's say, for example, if app 1 added a wellness feature, let's say content blockers to enable users to block or mute specific keywords or topics or accounts, this in turn will provide users a greater sense of control, which is estimated to boost an app's positive wellness impact by 7%. Now, a lot of the sentiment research that I've done, trust plays a huge part of driving sentiment. And when it comes to digital wellness, it's very much aligned with trust of a company and sentiment. So this is so much intertwined with that sits behind an app's equity, whether it's good for me, and whether this is something I want to make part of my regular days or life. So just a quick recap here. Really, the focus here is to create a structured approach to prioritizing user wellness, starting by a comprehensive understanding of what constitutes or influences digital wellness in my category. Secondly, determining where's my app versus my competing app, where are my strengths, my weaknesses, and where can I have a competitive edge. And then lastly, prior to making changes or bringing features on board, we can build a predictive model to say, hey, if we did this and that, what is the likely boost that we can expect to see related to digital wellness or the positive influence that we have on users? And that is essentially the content I wanted to show. I do have like 10 minutes left for questions. Hopefully this was helpful, and really it's meant to be a thought starter. It's a really complex topic, and I wouldn't say that we necessarily covered every single base that there is. Analytics data plays into it, observational, BSI. There's a lot that can be plugged into this model to make it more powerful and more predictive. But I feel this is a good framework to kind of start building a foundational understanding of where this might go in the future, and how do we get tactical about building towards a more sustainable digital engagement model. Let's see if there's any questions. I'll stop sharing my screen here. Is there any questions from the audience here? Let's see if I see anything in the chat or in the Q&A. I don't see any questions. So thank you so much for joining, everybody. Great to meet you, and welcome to hit me up on LinkedIn or email me. You can see my email on the event calendar. And yeah, hope to see you all at the next year's conference. Have a good weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.